Run away, it's Slowdog here to tell you about the mythics to go in Yorick and the different strengths and weaknesses of the 4 main mythics and when you should go them. Now Yorick is one of the most unique and beginner friendly champion just because of the fact that there are different mythics you can buy, fitting for your playstyle and learn how to use depending on your skill level. So for example, if you're a newer League player, Triforce is a very solid base to work with for Yorick, but if you're more of an assassin player, Prowler's Cloak might be a mythic you'll love on him. He has a huge variety of items you can go, but I'll be covering the main mythics for him and identifying a playstyle that fits it. All of them have different strengths and weaknesses, and today I'm going to be covering all of them, so let's start off the first and main one, the Talk of the Tower, and my personal favorite mythic, Prowler's Claw. So firstly, there is a common misconception that Prowler's Claw is an inferior Eclipse and just a cheese item. That is simply not true at all, and I'm going to explain why Prowler's Claw is single-handedly the best mythic for Yorick in the entire game. Let's address the elephant in the room. It's a very good tool to gap close. It can let you do crazy plays, especially with Flash, unless you get onto those annoying squishies that can cut you. It's very hard to deal with due to its range, and pretty much creates entire kill angles, just because of the dash alone. Already this point makes it a very solid item. However, the dash can also be used to dodge skill shots. In some matchups, it can really disorientate the enemy, especially if they have a lot of skills, just like Riven and Aatrox. I can't count how many times I've used this mid-fight just to dodge a skill, but it's absolutely amazing. Another big strength that nobody talks about is that it is the strongest scaling ghoul increase damage mythic you can get. No other mythic will give more damage ghouls than Prowler's Claw, due to the mythic passive of giving 5 to 30 per legendary item you buy, and synergizing with Yorick's 2 other favorite items being Grudge and Cleaver. Now you might be thinking, where, Slowdog, but what about Eclipse? Well, the problem with Eclipse's mythic passive is that the Armor Pen passive doesn't properly work. So Prowler's Claw will always give more value to the mythic passive and gives ghouls more burst and consistent damage provided the enemy has less than 150 armor. Now that I complimented Prowler's Claw so much, why not just go it every single game? Well, I personally almost do it every single game. The only weakness to Prowler's Claw is that it blows balls if you're not that good at Yorick, as it is very ghoul reliant and there's a higher skill cap on using the active and also getting ghouls. Also, it is by far the squishiest option out of all the mythics, making you have to play at weird ranges because you can't frontline and mash your head into other people. But if you get good at it, it gives you the most damage, strong utility at the price of squishiness, and just overall a very fun tool to play with. Now the other lethality item, Eclipse. A very solid option giving good damage, a bit of tankiness, and amazing sustain. It has strong scaling due to having high lethality and a decent mythic passive, and is a very strong laning tool due to the lifesteal it gives, and the shield from the mythic itself. The extra damage itself can proc from 1E of Maiden active, and the effect is just amazing, with the shield and movement speed all being really useful for Yorick. It's just a very good all-around item. However, newer Yoricks may struggle to use this item due to the fact that the Q doesn't hit as hard due to the lack of a Sheen item, and also being the only mythic among the 4 main mythics to not have any ability haste at all. Now onto the Sheen mythics. Let's start with the most classic and the most consistent mythic for Yorick of all time, Trinity Force. No matter your opinion in Yorick and what you think, this is the jack of all trades, the El Clasico, and it's the best starter mythic. It gives amazing damage, good ability haste, and makes Yorick a really strong independent champion even without ghouls. It is undisputably the best speed pushing item as well, which is Yorick's strength, and has a very nice item path having options of burst of Sheen and tankiness with Kindle Gem. However, making Yorick a strong independent champion of Triforce comes at the expense of damage from ghouls, which inevitably makes his main strength less of a threat in favor of more power towards big Q bonks. So although it gives Yorick huge Q damage and is very easy to play, it puts him at the price of having weaker ghouls compared to the lethality mythics, and is very linear, not having the utility of Prowler or Eclipse or the tankiness from Divine Sunderer. Blech! I left the worst for last, but it is a really good option for Yorick, so unfortunately I do have to talk about it. Divine Sunderer. Divine Sunderer is a good item on Yorick, giving great trading with sustain and decent damage in the Sheen procs. However, it comes at a price of a lot less damage compared to Triforce and the lethality mythics. It gives a lot of tankiness due to the consistency of the healing from its effect, and is amazing into harder matchups where you need a bit of tanky such as Tryndamere, but also want a damage item along with it. This is a good item if you like healing big of Q and just overall want to be tanky. However, it struggles in the damage compartment compared to the other mythics, and that alone makes me not like it. I must say though, against tanks, this item is your only option, and if you fall behind, it is a great item to build due to having a lot of value without needing any other items. This is a very solid option if you're learning how to play Yorick and want to be a bit beefier and still be doing a decent amount of damage. Now I'm going to go over the general progression as you improve at Yorick. However, do note that all the mythics are preference and you can play it to how you like or pick depending on the matchup, which is what you realistically should do. So all Yoricks should start off with Triforce. It's a very solid option, having amazing damage, doesn't require landing E or W as much, has a lot of the power budget into the queue, and it's just a very safe option. Another solid option is to use Sundara. It gives you a lot more safety and tankiness, but do note it does less damage, but it is virtually a very chill item to go. So if you like a tanky style, go Sundara, but if you want to learn Yorick the normal style, Triforce is great. Once you get more comfortable with either Trinity Force or Divine Sundara, Eclipse is a great option to try out. Having more damage in ghouls instead of the Q, giving the incredibly satisfying ghoul damage and watching the enemies suffer, but also gives you a bit of tankiness and utility with the shield and movement speed it gives you. After you get used to Eclipse's damage and the capability with its ghouls, Prowlers can be learned for the maximum Yorick potential, and you can at last witness the maximum damage of the ghouls, ripping apart the enemy while you sit back and power score into the victory screen. One thing to note though is, even though I do have an opinion on the best Yorick mythics, and that being the lethality mythics, it is important to note all of this is purely preference. For example, if you like playing a very bruisery style, you're gonna like Trinity Force, you're gonna like Sundara. If you like doing the fat ghoul damage, you're gonna love Eclipse and Prowlers, right? Or if you're a psychopath, you can eat shit and go fucking Leandras, you psychopath. Get the hell out of here, go to bed now.